88.1 WHPR, Highland Park. FM 88.1 WHPR.
It won't be overlooked. Besides, who am I to pass judgment on others? No, wait. Maybe I'm wrong. This is exactly what I've been thinking about lately. This world is rotting, and those who are making it rot deserve to die. Someone has to do it, so why not me? Even if it means sacrificing my own mind and soul, it's worth it. Because the world can't go on like this. I wonder, what if someone else had picked up this notebook? Is there anyone out there other than me who'd be willing to eliminate the vermin from the world? If I don't do it, then who will? That's just it, there's no one. But I can do it. In fact, I'm the only one who can. I'll do it. Using the Death Note, I'll change the world.
Hello and welcome to AniMonday Nights with me, your host, Rodney Tompkins. And today we'll be going a little bit in depth about what you just heard. That whole monologue was from the first episode of the critically acclaimed anime Death Note. A lot of you have probably heard of it. If you haven't watched it, you've definitely heard of it. It's been around since about 2006. The manga was serialized in Jump maybe a little earlier, about 04, 05, Jump in Japan. And they aired it here in about 06, 07, and it is one of the most thought-provoking, well-thought-out, I don't even want to say show, like not just anime, one of the smartest shows you will ever watch. I would compare it, if you've seen Breaking Bad or are familiar with that series, it's the anime version of Breaking Bad. It's comparable to that as far as in-depth, mind thought-provoking commentary and dialogue. It is one of the greatest anime in this modern generation of anime. And I bring this up tonight because we'll be discussing a bit of new news regarding the Death Note series. It's going to be getting a live action adaptation, a movie here in America, and we got a lot to say on that. We're going to discuss the Death Note live action series, the Final Fantasy 15 development process, which we discussed last week, but they released a demo since then, a playable demo of the game on PS4 and Xbox 360, so we'll go a little bit in depth on that. And a little more about the Zelda WiiU rumors, if even any of you are Wii U owners who are looking forward to this next generation Zelda game that's been delayed for at least a couple months. No info, just completely silent. We'll go a little bit in depth on that. And Dragon Ball Super, spoiler free about this past episode, really hype, and we'll definitely get into that. But that intro monologue was from the English version of Death Note, clearly, and Light Yagami is the main character's name. And just for a little summary of the main story, he's a high school student, really smart, top grades, almost genius level. And he's just bored with life. He's getting good grades. His family loves him. Everything is good in his life, but he's bored. And one day, a notebook falls from the sky. He sees it from his classroom, and he didn't pay it any mind at first. But after class, he went and picked it up, and it had Death Note on the front. And a Death Note is basically a notebook of death, anybody's name who's written in it will supposedly die. It's kind of like a chain mail or chain letter thing that people do for fun, but this anime really harks on that idea and makes it real. And he didn't pay it any mind. He's one of those smarter students who doesn't really pay attention to things like that. But he decided to write a criminal's name in it one day, and about 30 seconds later, that criminal died. And he decides that at first he's overwhelmed, like, oh, I don't deserve this power. I don't need this. This is something of a higher level. But then his ego takes a little turn for the worse, and he decides to become a god and pass judgment on people. And it gets really deep. Basically, police get onto him that this criminal or something is killing off criminals without their say so. So, it's somebody taking this law into their own hands, and police aren't standing for that. They hire one of the greatest detectives in time. His name is L, to hunt down the user of this notebook, and it just gets really deep. It's really thought-provoking. It is an amazing series, about 50 episodes, English dub, English sub. You can watch it in whichever way you want. It's been out for a while, but it is honestly one of the best series to date. And I bring this up because it's written by Tsugumi Oba. If you're familiar with his works, he also worked on Bakuman, another series. Nothing like this one. It's a comic book. It's kind of fourth wall breaking. It's a series about the process of writing comics and creating anime. And he started that as a comic first, him and his partner, and it eventually became an anime and had a movie adaptation of its own in Japan. So it's a series about making series. Basically like I don't want to call it a... yeah, it's basically yeah, that's what it is. It's a series about the process and development cycle of different animes and manga. So definitely check that out. The manga creator of Death Note also worked on that series, and the anime was directed by Tetsuro Araki. If you're familiar with him, he also directed the Attack on Titan anime, and if you watch Death Note, you will see a lot of his similar critiques and a lot of detailed things he put into both of those series. From the border around the faces, like the art style he uses is very noticeable. His name is Tetsuo Araki. He worked on both Attack on Titan, which we talk about a lot here. It's one of the hypest anime to date. He directed that, and he also directed Death Note back in 06, 07. So definitely check out both of those series if you've heard. And basically, this series, Death Note, is so critically acclaimed, even in in America, all around the world. Everybody has heard of it or watched it. It's so deep. It has great character development. It's really thought-provoking. You have to check it out. And it's so popular, it's getting an live-action American movie here in the States. And most people are very skeptical when it comes to America taking anime and trying to do it themselves or produce it into a movie. And it's rightfully so, because the only proof we have of this is, I hate to bring this up again, Dragon Ball Evolution. The movie Hollywood decided during the writer's drought of Hollywood back in 06 or 07, they basically were just digging up any scripts they could, whoever had the rights to anything. And Fox Studios basically had the rights to Dragon Ball Z. And they decided to make a live-action adaptation of it, and it was awful. So definitely don't check that out. Even if you're a fan of the series, it is not worth watching. But people are really skeptical when it comes to making live-action anime adaptations, whether in Japan or America, because Japan does it too. They have a live-action Detective Conan, if you're familiar with that series. I believe they do. Live-action Attack on Titan that just came out. Live-action Death Note. They have about 3 different series of Death Note, and a Great Teacher Onizuka, if you're familiar with that. So Japan, I believe they're allowed. I won't criticize them for making live-action adaptations. This is their material. It's originated there. They should be able to produce it eloquently and have it done right. They have the source material. They should be able to do it. But as far as America, we tend to take a lot of creative liberties with series we have. Even not even series, even movies made here in America, like book adaptations to movies like Harry Potter and The Hunger Games. Of course, when a book is adapted into a film, it's going to take a few little creative liberties, whoever's directing or producing it. But when it comes to anime and manga, fans are very critical and like things to stick to the source material, or we don't expect it to be good. And as far as Death Note, I have high hopes for it. I'm expecting it to be good. I don't want it to fail. It shouldn't fail. They have all the source material they need. The issue is, along with any other adaptation of a book or manga, that you can't compress 50 plus episodes or chapters into an hour and a half, 2-hour film. You just can't do it and get everything you want in there. So if you have an opinion on that, give me a call down here, 313-868-0331, and let me know what you expect from this Death Note live action series. And I think it has potential. It has everything there to make a great live action adaptation to this. And even honestly, I haven't personally, I have not even watched the Japanese adaptations to it, because they use a lot of not a lot, but one of the other protagonists, Light Yagami, is the main character of Death Note, and he gets a Shinigami, or a Soul Reaper, or Death's, a Soul Reaper, if you familiar with the Grim Reaper, basically a Grim Reaper. Grim Reapers are the owners of these Death Notes, and his Grim Reaper that appeared to him is the one who dropped that into his world for him to get. Well, basically, it's not even for him to get. He wanted anybody to get it. And There's a Grim Reaper there, and it's really cool how they make him look in the anime. But for the Japanese live action adaptations for Death Note, they gave him a lot of CG, and I don't know what it is about Japan. As much as technically advanced they are, something about CG. They are not good at making CG when it comes to movies and live action. It never looks exactly right. It's always, maybe I'm being a little too cynical because I'm too familiar with American CG and how well, Disney, Pixar, or any other company does it when they're trying to combine CG and live action. But something about when Japan does it, I don't know if the budget's not there, but it never looks up to par. And Death Note, the Japanese live action adaptation, had a CG Ryuk is the name of the Shinigami, and it never looked quite right to me, so I never even watched any of the Death Note movies that aired in Japan. And they're online. You can buy them on DVD in their English subtitles. I think they're even dubbed in English too. So it's definitely worth checking out. I'm sure it's good. I just can't. I'll check it out one day, but I'm sure I can't get used to the CG they used in that. And even people who have seen them, I hear that they say they're pretty good. You can't go wrong with Death Note. You got the source material right there. It's really good. It's worth checking out. So you really can't go wrong when you have it right there. Everything's in the book. It's basically the script is written for you already, thanks to the manga creator or the anime directors. So when it comes to making a film, just kind of take what they had, stick to it, and make it good. Appease to the anime fans or people who are fans of the anime and manga. And it'll be interesting to see how America or how Hollywood, specifically Netflix. I don't like to hark on Netflix, but they're pretty successful now. But when it comes to a big budget film, they're a streaming company. They don't have a big budget, and even they are producing their own shows and even their own anime. But for something like Death Note, I kind of prefer a huge budget with some A-name actors, and I'm hoping Netflix can manage that, but I'm not too sure they can. But as far as actors, I hear if you're familiar with Nat Wolff, he was in a few movies, The Fault in Our Stars, excuse me. If you've seen that movie, came out in I think 2013, pretty good movie. A few other things. His name is Nat Wolff. I'm sure you've heard of him. But more specifically, if you've heard him, he's from the Naked Brothers band that aired on Nickelodeon or whatever. It was like a live action. These kids were in a band, and they basically did a live action, what do you call that, sitcom of them and their band. And he was the big brother of the band. And I didn't expect him to be able to go from there, but apparently he went from a kid show to acting in a Hollywood movie. So his name is Nat Wolff, Natwooff. And he looks like he could make a good Light Yagami. It's weird thinking about it, but definitely check him out, see some movies he's in. I can't think of any movies in particular that he's in that I've seen, but if you've heard of him, check him out. He'll be playing Light Yagami in the live action adaptation to Death Note, and I think it's hope. He could pull it off, and they haven't released who's gonna play L. L is the detective who's on the hunt for Light Yagami, the kid who owns the Death Note and who was taking out criminals. And it'll be strange to see how America handles this. It has potential. I definitely think it's gonna take off, but I don't know how well it'll do being streamed on Netflix. Not getting a theatrical release, which this movie honestly deserves because the anime is so popular. It kind of deserved a theatrical release, but depending on how well it does, it may get Blu-ray, DVD releases. It may be streamed on online or further more sites than just Netflix, or even get put in local theaters. You never know. Netflix is really coming up as far as content. They're creating their own content because I learned this the other day. Netflix is basically they're in the red as far as they never break even. They acquire rights to different shows and anime to stream, but the subscriptions they get from millions of people, $8 a month, that isn't enough to break even with how much it costs to acquire rights to all these shows they're streaming. So they're slowly creating their own content so they can ease away from streaming and getting properties from other people and paying them. That's why every time you get on Netflix, you see a new original series right on the main menu. It's like they're slowly producing their own things so they can just be their own and get their own independence and have their own profit coming in. So definitely check out Death Note is the name of the anime. It'll be I think they said it'll start filming this summer in June, and it'll definitely be something to look out for. If you haven't watched the anime, check that out. And if you're familiar with the anime, check out some of the live action movies that came out a while back. They hold up slightly, but the CG, like I said, is a little iffy. Now, another topic I want to talk to tonight is about Zelda. If you're familiar with the Zelda game series, been coming out since the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, 1980, '89, I believe. Well, I'm not sure the exact date, but the first one originally came out on Nintendo back in the 1980s and 90s, and it's been a progressing series ever since then. The Nintendo's latest console, the Wii U, came out in 2012, and they promised not on launch day, but the company basically guaranteed a next-gen Zelda game for the Wii U. And we went a long couple years of silence, no info on it. They had a remake of one that came out on another system. They had an HD remake of the Wind Waker that came in 02 or 03, I believe, on the GameCube. And then just recently they had a HD remake of Twilight Princess, the Zelda game for the Wii. But with all these remakes, and even the 3DS had a portable Zelda. Let's see, we have a call. Hello, how you doing?
Hey, yeah, I was just listening on when you talked about the Death Note thing, how America was going to their spin on it. So is it true that there's a Netflix adaptation?
Can you speak up just a little bit? It's a little hard to hear you.
Sorry, what about now?
Okay, it's a little better.
Yeah, you said they're doing a Netflix adaptation?
Yeah, that's the thing. You would think, because in Japan, you know, they had a big budget producer or whatever. They got theatrical releases for their 3 movies. But here in America, Netflix acquired the right. I think Fox originally had the rights at first, but they passed it up. They didn't think it would work, so they dropped the script and everything, and Netflix picked it up. So Netflix will be producing it, but you know, Netflix isn't as big budget as like Hollywood, Fox, or DreamWorks. So yeah, it'll be on Netflix.
Dang, because the first time I watched the Death Note movie, they had to give it different endings, you know, like to tie it up and put it in.
Right.
Cinema.
Okay, so the Japanese movies have a different ending than the anime?
Yeah, because you know, they put a plot device in there so it can be wrapped up, you know, just for people that, for people who haven't watched the series to like get a feel for it, I believe. So yeah, it was actually very odd to see that go down. There's like this new shit in there that she was not supposed to be in there, like, you know, she had a girlfriend in that movie. You know, that's not supposed to be.
Well, I mean, in the anime, the girl that liked him, they technically, he was kind of using her, but he technically had a girl, if you want to. But were they like legitimate a couple in those movies? Like, that's, I kind of agree with you then if they were.
Yeah, they're like a legitimate couple, and you sold her off. Charged for the spoiler.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's because that's not his personality. He was a real cynical type of person. He was using anybody he could to acquire this goal of his. And I'm gonna check it out. Which movie was? Do you know which movie that was? It was just one. Cause I know there's about 3 of them. I just haven't watched any of them.
It was the first ever live adaptation. You know, before L got his own movie.
Okay, so tell me about that. So the first one, I remember it was about Light and all that. And so the second one was about L, like specific. It followed him throughout this.
Yeah, it was like him doing his last thing, doing the movie before he like died. But it's something like the Bucky race is actually him getting his work done.
Huh? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check that one out. But how did they portray L in the live act? Like, did he look like he did in the anime? Was he hunched up in the seat and hold the phone all crazy? I need them to do it right. Did they do it right?
Yeah, they did it right.
Oh yeah, there we go.
They did it right.
They have to, man.
Yeah, but they actually did L right in that movie.
That is good.
Putting that plot of beans there. I feel like go back and forth in that one.
Yeah, that's one of the main things I'm worried about. You know, Japan, they can do it right. They can portray these characters really well because this is their series. You know, they have Asian actors who look like most of these anime characters. I'm like, do you know who Nat Wolf is? Like, if you see him, it's like he looks like an average, you know, white guy, but the hair almost works. The hair does work, honestly. He got the light Yagami hair, but I'm hoping he can pull off a dark, smart, mature Light that's in the anime. So do you know who Nat Wolf is? Have you ever heard of him? Seen any of his movies? Nat Wolf, Natwoolff. Do you remember the Naked Brothers band that came on Nickelodeon?
Yeah, Naked Brothers. Oh, that was a stupid show. Yeah.
It was a very stupid show, but he was the main character. Remember the oldest boy that played guitar?
He's L.
He had a little brother that played like the drums, and he had the little girlfriend that played the bass, and he was Yeah, that's Nat Wolff. I'm like, you got the guy from like a Nickelodeon series to play Light, man. I mean, he's like 18 now. He's a full man. It's that's why I hate telling people it's gonna be weird, man. I'm willing to give him a chance. He looks like him. I admit he kind of has a Light Yagami face, but it's gonna be weird.
I'll definitely. Now I gotta give that some.
I understand.
Now I gotta get Netflix.
It's gonna be it won't be out, so I think they're filming it this summer, so maybe by next year the Death Note movie will be streaming on Netflix. But I kind of wanted it to get a bigger fan base than just Netflix. I wanted a theatrical release, but budget wise, maybe they couldn't do it. So you never know. I think it'll be good. Are you familiar with his other series, Bakuman? I've heard of it. I just never watched or read it.
What, Bakuman?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
It's pretty cool. Basically, manga creators and writers in Japan, it's a really tough career to get into because it doesn't pay that well. And it's basically a take on what it's like to be a manga creator. It's one of the dreams of a lot of American and Japanese kids to write comics and make cartoons, and that show really.
I remember that. Like, my friend was telling me about it, but I never read it because, I don't know why.
Yeah, like it doesn't really like. I'm interested into more battle shonen and action type shows, so I never got into Bakuman, but I hear it's really good. Like, people tell me it's great.
Yeah.
So I'll be checking that out eventually, just so I can give a review on it. But yeah, I'll check it out. Same director as Death Note, Tsugumi Oba.
Okay.
Yep.
I gotta go.
Should definitely check that out.
Alright.
Alright, thanks for calling in, man. You can call back anytime or give some other people a chance, either one.
Okay.
Alright, thanks again.
Alright.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with Death Note, definitely check out the series just to get prepped and get prepared for this live action adaptation that's coming. Or if you already prepared, already watched the movies and just never checked out the live action movies available in Japan, you can definitely stream those online somewhere. It's definitely worth watching. Back to Zelda, yeah, the development process. Remember how last week we were discussing how Final Fantasy 15 has had this terrible development, but Zelda WiiU for this latest Wii U Nintendo console hasn't had the best one either. They've been really silent. They showed a trailer of it back in 2013, I believe, and then the whole year of silence, and then 2014. E3 is where the big gaming events happen. E3 is where they host new trailers and new gameplay footage, new announcements of all the next-gen systems and games. And I believe E3 2014, they showed a trailer for it, another trailer, and then went a whole nother year of like silence and slow leakage of news. And then at the gaming awards that air on Spike TV, I believe they air on Spike TV at once a year. They award games for the best production, graphics, story, best RPGs, best adventure games. They showed full gameplay and a full trailer for Zelda WiiU, and they even promised, the director himself was there and said, you know what, we're going to give you this game in 2015. It's going to launch this year right before the new Star Fox game that's also coming. And then the director of the Star Fox, they were sitting next to each other discussing how both of their games were coming in 2015. They guarantee it, they'll be ready. And then about 2 months later, they announced online, like, sorry, we're going to delay both Zelda and Star Fox. And a lot of fans were just really upset by that. We've already not getting a lot of news on these two games. But then in 2015, they delayed both. And the Wii U is already a struggling system when compared to the PS4 and the Xbox One, the other two next-gen systems that are out this year. The Wii U is at the bottom of the list. It's a great console. It just can't do a lot of what the other two can. As far as graphically, it's not the best. Nintendo always never goes full throttle when it comes to graphics. They believe in innovation and gameplay over graphics, which is all good. That's what gaming needs. You can't just have graphics and gameplay be terrible. So they have the right idea. They just never do it right or do it well. They do it good enough to get by and make fans happy, but they never cater to the more mature audience that end up going to the PS4 and the Xbox One when it comes to full online voice chat, really deep, intricate gaming and game developing. People end up going to the PS4 and Xbox One because Nintendo never caters to the fans who want a really deep gaming experience. And again with the Wii U, just like with the Wii was, anybody who owned a Wii remember the craze and hectic nonsense that surrounded that at launch. Back in '06, anybody remember trying to get a Wii for Christmas? It was ridiculous. You couldn't get them. They were out of stock. They sold extremely well. But then everybody who owns a Wii, I can guarantee a lot of you, a year to a couple months later was like, this is a Netflix box. I don't want to play any of the games on it. You know, they had the Wii Sports. You play with your family and friends. They had the Super Smash Bros. But most people, by the second year of the Wii, it was a Netflix box. Nobody, you gave it to your grandparents and your parents to click on the TV and go to Netflix. That's what the Wii ended up being, not a real dedicated gaming device, because the thing was really underpowered, even for '06. HD gaming has been a thing since '06. The 360 launched, not even '06, '05. The 360 launched in '05 with composite cables that basically gave you 720p for your gaming experience. And the next year, PS3 came out and it had an HDMI port. And even back then, a lot of people didn't have HD compatible TVs. We didn't get one until about 2013. We bought our first HD TV or HDMI compatible TV in 2013. So we were really late for it. But back in '06, they were really expensive, and a lot of people still had fatbacks or CRT TVs. So the 360 had composite cables. So if you had the red, white, and yellow cord, you can get standard definition. That's about 240 to 360p to 480p, I believe. And the composite cables were the green and white cables that few TVs had, but they could output 720p, I believe. And then the PS3 came out, and anybody who had an HD compatible LCD screen could run 1080p's or 720p's with an HDMI port. And think, the Wii came out in '06. Was it '06? Yes, '06. So Nintendo hasn't had an HD system until now. The Wii U launched in 2012. They're just so behind with the times. The 360 and PS3 were HD compatible. The PS4 and the Xbox One are HD compatible, and even it's rumored that they'll get an updated PS4K that can output 4K. If you know what 4K is, it's basically even better looking. You don't really need it, but makes your screen, makes your movies look a lot, not even a lot better. I won't even lie. It makes it look slightly better than the average HDMI 1080p. So Nintendo themselves have always been real behind the times when it comes to hardware, online gaming, voice chat. They don't do any of that. Even their handheld is real lacking. Handheld can't output HD. The PS Vita, Sony's handheld, could do that and had twin sticks and HD compatible, but it didn't. It ended up flopping, and somehow the 3DS is really successful. But Nintendo's always been really weird. They're in their own world. They don't listen to their consumers. They kind of do their own thing. The thing about Microsoft and Sony, they will hear backlash from consumers, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, and they will take care of it. They're really in tune with social media and basically the consumer and the fan base of their product. And the reason is because Sony and Microsoft Microsoft is a American company. Sony, I believe, originated in Japan, but they have a really big fan base and big line here in America. So they're real familiar with the American culture, America and even European and Western culture in general. Sony and Microsoft can get that. Nintendo is a very Japanese-based company. They really stick to their ways. They're kind of stubborn, honestly. That's honestly the Japanese mindset a little bit. They're kind of stubborn. They're really smart, and they're stuck in their ways. If there's something they think they can do, they're going to do it their way and no other way. And that's the issue when it comes to Nintendo. They don't listen, basically. So they're going to do what they think will work and don't listen to anyone else. So if you have an opinion on that, give me a call. What company do you love the best, Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft? Which gaming device do you currently play or have? Give me a call at 313-868-0331 and just let me know what you think about this current generation of gaming. I own a PS4 and a Wii U. I haven't bought an Xbox One because I don't think I need it. Basically, it's preference as far as PS4 and Xbox One, whichever. They basically do the same thing. The few exclusives that each console has is up to you whether you want it. And even recently, Microsoft has never been known to have that many exclusives. You know, Nintendo has the Marios, the Zeldas, the Metroids, Kirby, Smash Bros, all that. Sony has the Uncharted series, Crash Bandicoot, that was an old 90s game, if you're familiar with that. God of War, the Ratchet and Clank, yep, those are all great Sony exclusive games. And when it comes to Microsoft, you know, you got the Halo, you got the Gears of War. I believe they acquired the rights to Tomb Raider, but even then, Microsoft doesn't have too many basically exclusive IPs or intellectual properties that they own and that won't be on any other system. when it comes to an IP or exclusives, that means that company owns the rights to that game, and it won't be produced on any other console. Yeah, even Square Enix, the upcoming Kingdom Hearts, I believe that's produced by Square Enix, and that'll be a multi-plat, I think. Well, yeah, at first it was only originally on Sony products, so it was on the PlayStation 2, it was on the PSP, and then they just never put it on the Xbox, because even Kingdom Hearts 2 was out at the time the first Xbox was out. It was on PS2, and, well, it was during that generation of PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, and the Kingdom Hearts series has been just, it's really notably known to be on a Sony platform, and it wasn't until maybe 03, 04 that they put the first portable Kingdom Hearts game on the Game Boy Advance. So it was like, hey, Sony and Nintendo will be getting the Kingdom Hearts games, but they just never came to Microsoft. So it missed out on the Xbox, and just recently, well, not recently, in about 2014, they announced that the latest installation, Kingdom Hearts 3, will be coming to both consoles, both PS4 and the Xbox One. Hopefully the NX, Nintendo's next console, maybe it'll be getting a NX launch too, but nobody knows at this point. But yeah, the Xbox 360 is definitely a good system, or it was a good system, but it just never got the exclusives that it deserved. And speaking of exclusives, just recently there was a new trailer for the Gears of War franchise, Gears of War 4. And I personally I've played it. I'm not familiar with the story. I hear it's really cool, really dark and depressing though. Post-apocalyptic world, aliens are attacking, and the few humans are left are basically fighting this alien brigade and trying to destroy them, because they're out to destroy humankind as well. And you know, a lot of great characters. The character development is really deep for one of the characters I've heard. Marcus, I believe, he's looking for his wife in the middle of all this, and it's a really deep series. Gameplay is really brutal and gory, but if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely check it out. Third-person shooter. The first three, I believe, are on the Xbox 360, and this latest one, it was originally, I guess it was supposed to be a trilogy. They thought, they've been silent for the past couple years whether or not there would be a fourth one, but apparently they just launched a new trailer for it. So Gears of War 4, I believe it'll be coming out this year, exclusive to the Xbox One. So if you're familiar with that franchise, want to check that out, definitely look up the new trailer. It was really hype. I saw bits and pieces of it, haven't watched it all yet, but definitely check out the Gears of War trailer. And speaking of Kingdom Hearts, well, this isn't exactly Kingdom Hearts, but Square Enix has recently put out a Final Fantasy 15 demo. If you were here last week, you heard me discussing how the crazy development behind that game as well, how it's basically been in development for the past 10 years, literally 10 years. 06 is when the first trailer came out for it, and it was announced for the PS3 and Xbox 360. And basically every year since 06, it's just silent. No news from the company whether or not they still release other games. The Deus Ex or the Kingdom Hearts games were still coming out. They were just silent regarding this Final Fantasy Versus 13, what it was supposed to be called at the time. And just years passed, and I think even a few years later, in like 010, 11, we get another trailer of gameplay and even new process. They were saying coming in 06 or coming in the preceding year, but it never did. And just more years of silence. And then last year they officially put out a brand new trailer. New characters were in it. Basically the development took so long that new characters were added, story elements were changed, and gameplay was changed. It's almost a new looking game, but it's still the same game, just took a 10-year development cycle. So that'll be coming out later this year. And they recently put out a demo, because before, I believe the only way you could get your hands on this game was to purchase the Final Fantasy Type 0. Type 0 originally launched on the PSP in Japan back in, I think, 08, and we never got it here in the States. So back in, I think, last year, they decided to remake this game for current gen. They gave it a PS4 remake. So if you went and bought the PS4 remake of Final Fantasy Type 0, it came with a demo for the upcoming Final Fantasy 15. So anybody who bought that game got the little taste of Final Fantasy 15, but that was the only way to get it. You couldn't download the demo online. There's no other way to do it. So recently they released a new demo. You can download it from the PS4 or Xbox One shop and get your hands on the gameplay for the upcoming Final Fantasy 15. And it's kind of wacky. The whole point of this Final Fantasy 15, people are really wanting this game because it's the action RPG feel of Kingdom Hearts in a Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy games are known to have deeper, real intricate stories, while the Kingdom Hearts gameplay has had this lighthearted story, but this really cool gameplay that people love, this action RPG type. And Final Fantasy was really had a different type of gameplay, like basic JRPG forget the turn-based. It was more of a turn-based RPG, while the Kingdom Hearts series was an action RPG. And Final Fantasy 15 will be the first Final Fantasy game to have Kingdom Hearts' action RPG gameplay. And the demo they released is they developed this demo specifically for people to get their hands on it. It's its own story. It's not even part of the main game that'll come out in September. They created this demo just for people to get their hands on it. And it feels like a Kingdom Hearts game. From the settings to the gameplay, it's weird. This is what people wanted, though. It felt like a Kingdom Hearts game, and I'm a little skeptical about that. I'm like, I still wanted the game to feel like Final Fantasy and have strategic RPG elements, but the demo I played recently really made it feel like a Kingdom Hearts game. Just even the character they gave you felt like a Kingdom Hearts character. The weapon system felt like Kingdom Hearts. It just felt like they could have just made this demo a Kingdom Hearts demo, and I don't think anybody would have noticed. So if you played that demo, give me your opinion on that. Call me down here at 313-868-0331 and let me know how hyped you are for Final Fantasy 15 or Kingdom Hearts 3, whichever one you're more hyped for. If you're familiar with the Final Fantasy series or Kingdom Hearts series, let me know what you think on that. And recently, last week, I mentioned how they were doing an anime for this game. This is a prequel anime series, 11-minute episodes, basically one episode per month. The first one came out this month, I think last week, and it'll be 5 episodes. So people are speculating that they'll do 1 episode a month. So from April to September, or April, May, June, July, August, and then September you'll get the game. So you can basically watch this anime series and hype yourself up and get a background on these characters, and then once the game come out, you'll know a little more than somebody who didn't watch the anime. And the first episode came out, I believe, last Friday, and it was pretty good. The animation quality is really great. We have another caller. Let's hear their say. Hey, how you doing?
Good afternoon. I would like your opinion on the PS3.
You would like my opinion on what now?
Yeah, as a system, PlayStation 3 as a system overall.
Ah, the PS3. Now, do you own one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So as you
I've had it since the beginning. I've never changed. I've never upgraded, and everyone wonders why I won't upgrade. But I'm satisfied with its performance.
Yeah, so the PSP, remember back when it launched in I think '06, it was really pricey. I believe around $600 or $800 just for the full bundle with I don't even know the hardware specs on it, but it was pretty pricey. But it was everybody's first Blu-ray player. So even if you weren't a gamer, you had a DVD and a Blu-ray player. And even if you were a gamer, you could stream Netflix and get apps. So the PS3 is a really great system. Honestly, it's the one I had last gen. I never had a 360. I had a PS3 and a Wii, so I gamed on my Wii and I streamed movies, and we watched movies as a family on the PS3. And even if you like sports titles, it has all the best sports titles. It gets the Maddens. I think they do get most of the games first. The 2Ks and NBA Lives usually end up on PS3 first, or Sony consoles first. And even shooters work, Call of Duty and the Assassin's Creed games. PS3 gets everything that Xbox does, so it's really preference.
Right.
I've always...
I downloaded all my games through the internet. I didn't buy any discs.
Yeah, so you don't buy discs, you just do it all digital?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
I've had several offers to buy it. I won't sell it.
Yeah, I get you. So, when you
All
buy
the
it...
games are built into it.
Yep. So when you buy your system, is all that is in there. You don't have to worry about kids or family breaking the disc. Everything is in that system. You don't have to go out and leave the house. It's all there.
Right.
And that's the convenience of this generation of gaming. Basically, everything is digital now, so you can do it all right from your home.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for calling in. Yeah, so definitely the PS3 and the 360 were really great consoles for its time, but like I said, the Nintendo consoles never had the hardware specs that these other systems do. So most people end up getting a PS3 or a Microsoft or a Sony console. But they're all good, whether you're a gamer or a casual, you just want to use them for movies or hanging out with family, just having a fun, good time. You can definitely pick up any of the 3 consoles. They're all worth getting. And back to Final Fantasy, the demo that recently came out feels a lot like Kingdom Hearts. If you're familiar with that series, it's weird. Definitely check out the demo. And the anime, I'll give you a quick review of that. It's basically the main character, Noct. He's the prince of this kingdom that was under attack from this other kingdom, and they've lost. And his father was killed, the king was killed, and Noctis, the main character, and his 4 assistants basically were on the run, and they left, and now they're trying to come back to the kingdom and reclaim it from the other kingdom that has overtaken it and conquered it. So it's really a coming of age story almost. Him being this sheltered child who knows how to fight and everything, but he's really sheltered being a prince. So him and his crew are on the way back to the kingdom to rescue his fiance and reclaim his kingdom. And the anime basically tapped on the first episode. The anime gave you a little more info about Noctis and how his mother was, I believe she passed away before, and it was just him and his father. So she passed before he was even old enough to remember almost. But he knows the enemy that defeated her and that killed her. And at the end of the first episode of the anime for the Final Fantasy 15, you find Noctis he ends up finding the creature that was after his mother. So definitely check that out. The animation is great. Fights are really nice. It looks almost like a 2D adaptation of this newest game. It's really good. So their budget is definitely, after a 10-year development cycle, their budget better be up to par for this game and any other products they put out for it, whether it's toys, anime line, clothing line, everything. For a game that's taken this long to develop and for the developers to have a budget that they do, Final Fantasy 15 had better be up to par. And definitely check out that first episode of the anime. If you've checked it out, got a take or opinion on that, definitely give me a call down here at 313-868-0331. And I'll go into the, if you've been up to date on the newest Dragon Ball Z series, the Dragon Ball Super. They're 38 episodes in, and it's been a little slow start. It's been coming on since, I believe, summer of last year. And there are 38 episodes in. They're basically retreading the two straight-to-DVD movies that came out, the Battle of Gods and the Revival of Frieza. And the first 20 or so episodes were kind of just retreading that. It made a lot of people upset. It's like, there's nothing new. We've seen all this in the two movies that came out. Now they're wasting time for this new series by just retreading what happened in the movies. And most people were worried that they wouldn't get far, or that they'd end it just by retreading the two movies just to get squeeze a little money out of it. But the latest arc they're in is a tournament arc, and they're fighting other people from a different dimension. So basically, the Saiyan race, as you know in the main storyline of Dragon Ball Z, the Saiyans are wiped out. There's only about 3 left, Goku, Vegeta, and their children, and they're all half Saiyans. So basically only 2 Saiyans left. And this series is dealing with different universes and different timelines. So they're fighting people in this tournament from different universes, and they've come across another Saiyan. So it's really hype. Basically, Dragon Ball Z hasn't had a Saiyan versus Saiyan fight since the Buu arc, when Majin Vegeta fought Goku. And this latest episode, actually the past episode last week, 37, showed Vegeta fighting this newest Saiyan they met, and it was really hype. And this latest episode showed the newest enemy for this arc, because a lot of people were worried with this new series that Akira Toriyama, the creator for Dragon Ball, he's really old. He's kind of forgetting a lot of the material he's used for this series, and now that he's back working on this new series, it's a lot of inconsistencies, and people are noticing a lot of inconsistencies with this newest series. So people were worried that we wouldn't get a lot of new characters, that the art style would be different. But this newest villain that they have, not even a villain, just the opponent they have for this tournament arc, he is legit. I believe Vegeta fought him, and I won't give you any spoilers. Check out this episode 38 of Dragon Ball Super. I believe you can stream it on Crunchyroll or any other anime streaming websites. Kiss Anime has it. GoGo Anime, I believe, also has it. So catch up to this series if you've into Dragon Ball Z. If you haven't watched it in years and ended at the Buu Saga, if you've never paid any attention to GT, this basically takes place GT technically, we went into this last week. We do it a lot on AnMondays. I don't like to hark on Dragon Ball GT, but technically it isn't canon, or it isn't part of the main story. So I'll give you a rundown of that again. In Japan, anime starts off as a manga or a comic. The creator, Akira Toriyama of Dragon Ball, wrote the comic first, and then it got picked up by an animation studio to get an anime. So the anime basically works off of the source material that Akira Toriyama has, this whole comic. So he wrote the Dragon Ball series, and then wrote the Dragon Ball Z series from the Saiyan saga all the way up to the Buu saga, which is where the series technically ended. It ended with Goku and Vegeta defeating Kid Buu, and that's where his comic ended, and that's where the anime was supposed to end. But due to such popularity in Japan and here in America too, Dragon Ball Z is one of the most well-known series of all time and around the world. Best-selling. I believe One Piece is the only thing to ever match up or surpass it. We have another caller. Hey, how you doing? Hello? All right, no response. Call me back, or we'll see what happens. But Dragon Ball Z is one of the most popular series of all time. Nothing else has ever reached its scale or peak. But with the continuation of the series, it is definitely getting popularity again. And the series originally was supposed to end at the Buu Saga, like I mentioned. But due to popularity, the anime and the people in Japan, the production team behind the anime, wanted it to keep going. So the creator decided to leave. He's like, nope, I'm done, so you can do whatever. You have these characters to work with. I have no part of this. My series is done. So GT is the continuation of Z, and that's why growing up I never noticed that it was a different series. I was like, oh, this is cool. It's still a continuation of Dragon Ball Z. They have new forms, new enemies, all that. But when a series doesn't have its original creator there, most people label it as non-canon, meaning that this is the productions team own creative liberties they've taken. So basically, Akira Toriyama does not rep. He may have, I think it's been stated that he did do the art for Super Saiyan 4, so that was a transformation that he did the work for. It wasn't just some side team that decided to create this form. He did draw the style for that. But as far as GT goes, I don't consider it canon. It's a really good series. A lot of inconsistencies, but Dragon Ball Z as a whole has a lot of inconsistencies. But GT basically took its own direction, and it has nothing to do with what the creator's original work was. But the Dragon Ball Super series that has recently started is the creator. He's back on it. He's drawing a manga for it, and the animation team is following the manga. They've taken a few little twists and turns just because the series, the manga and the animation are so close together. What they should have done was let him start the manga up, and then about a year later, when the manga has about 50 or so chapters, then they can produce the anime without having pauses or fillers. As you've heard a lot of anime have filler arcs. Filler is basically things that the production team had to do, side stories that the production team had to create in order for the comic writer to make more content, and then they'd go back and animate that further in, continue the story. But Dragon Ball Z is known to have a lot of fillers, but the Super series recently took off, so the manga is only about 2 chapters ahead of what the latest anime episodes will be. So they're very close together, and it's very risky to do that, because say the creator wants to take a break for a week or get sick. In Japan, he's just writing this comic. He gets sick and decides to take a week off. The anime also has to create filler or just stop completely. And Japan anime is very popular, and they don't really care for the just abrupt stop or ceasing when it comes to anime and production. So it's really risky, but you know, the series is hyped. It has a fan base behind it. Dragon Ball Super is definitely worth checking out if you're familiar with the original series. If you don't feel like rewatching all 600 plus episodes, just start at Dragon Ball Super. It hasn't been dubbed in English yet. They're most likely going to get one by next year, but Funimation usually acquires the rights when it comes to Dragon Ball Z. So definitely check it out if you're familiar. Give me a call down here if you're familiar with the series, or if you're up to date, and give me spoiler free for any listeners. So if you do call in, try to be as vague as possible. 313-868-0331, and just let me know what you think about this latest episode, and tell me how hyped you are for next week. Is it going to be good? Now, back to Nintendo's whole process when it comes to game development. The Star Fox series, is anybody familiar with that? It had it's only about 3 games that they've ever had. One on the Super Nintendo, another on the 64, and one on the GameCube, and I believe the original DS had one also. It's a very popular series. Anybody who grew up in the 90s with a Super Nintendo definitely remembers the Star Fox series with Fox McCloud and his ace partner Falco, and they're basically pilots defeating this space terrorist, basically Andross. And it's a really great series, on-rail shooter, and the series has been silent for so many years, but recently they announced Star Fox Zero, I believe, is coming to the Wii U this month, I believe. So it'll be out this month. I'll probably pick it up and do a quick review for anybody who's interested in that series. But as far as gameplay goes, they had to kind of implement this the Wii U gamepad. If you're familiar with the Wii U, it's the current gen system, but you know, Nintendo loved their gimmicks, so the controller has a giant touchscreen on it. So, and honestly, not a lot of developers have found a way to even utilize this in their games. So this control, the whole gimmick of this system, it's been out for 2 years, and nobody's been able to find a real productive way to use it, not even the company themselves. So that's where a lot of people are being put off by the system. Most people end up just getting a PS4 or an Xbox One. So the Wii U is a fun system. I have it. It's my most played system I have. I only have that and the PS4, so it's definitely worth getting. But as far as the Star Fox team, they had to basically come up with a gimmick to utilize this gamepad so that it'll stand out from these other two systems, the PS4 and the Wii U. Those have basic standard controllers, and the Wii U has this giant screen on their controller, and nobody's using it. None of the developers, not even the company themselves, have made games that really utilize it. But this Star Fox game is a dogfighting shooter game where you pilot a plane. So on your TV screen, you're seeing the third-person view of your plane, excuse me, and you're taking out enemy ships. And if you peek down at your controller, which has a screen on it, you get a first-person view of the plane, or of you from the cockpit of the plane, and you can aim in first person. So you can basically fly on your TV screen, and then you can aim your gun from the controller. So it's really precision shooting in a fighter-based pilot game. So it's really weird the way they utilize it, but I've been hearing so far, reviewers have said this is the best use of the gamepad so far. And that's a huge thing to say, because this thing has been out for almost 4 years and no developer has really utilized this gamepad. So that's Nintendo, though. You know they always have some type of gimmick with their systems. So if you're pretty hyped for Star Fox Zero, if you're not, if you only played the Star Fox 64 on GameCube, give me a call. Got about 8 minutes left, so give me your opinion on whatever we've discussed tonight. 8313-868-0331. And just give me a call down here. We do host AniMondays every night from 7 to 8 p.m. We discuss all things anime and gaming, open discussion, no judgments, no critiquing. We do it politely. We don't hate on any of your waifus or any of your favorite anime games. We don't do any judgments here. This is something I've always been really comfortable talking about. And I know here in Detroit we have a huge otaku fan base, and I just want to really get out there and expose all those who really don't have an outlet for open gaming and anime discussions. And aside from online, you can have articles, you have comments, you can talk about online. It's really online has always been a comfortable place to discuss this, because most people stream their anime online or read their manga online. So over the internet has always been the main outlet people have had for this topic. But I want to do it publicly, public radio. You call in, you can Facebook me, Rodney Tompkins. You can follow me on Twitter at BigBIG Badada, Badada. Email me your questions or tweet me your questions, Facebook me, and we're going to do this every Monday night from 7 to 8, open discussions. And as I like to mention every week, I recently came from a trip to Japan in October. I stayed there for 2 weeks and got the full-on vibe and full-on exposure to this amazing culture, this amazing country full of polite people who are really honorable. They love having tourists. They're very polite, and they find it really honorable for anybody who tours there to be able to speak their language. And I'm not even fluent in Japanese, but the little bit I did know, they were honored and very respected. I was respected by them for being able to speak their language. So I had a little handbook. I'm not just fluent in Japanese. I took it in 9th grade in high school in 2008, but I haven't really studied it since. I've watched a lot of animes and I kind of unconsciously learn it, but I did study a bit before I left. And Japan is just a really great place. I went to a lot of basically went through about half the country. Started in Tokyo, caught a bullet train or a Shinkansen all throughout the country. I didn't make it all the way through it. I ended in Kyoto was as far as I ended up going. But when I went to Kyoto, I went to a couple shrines. I prayed at I didn't get a name of any of them, but prayed at a couple shrines, went through the religious tributes and prayed at the shrine and lit the candle and put it in the well. And it's a real process they do, but it's really deep. It's cool. A lot of things you see in the anime, I don't want to call them stereotypes or tropes, but it's really legit. That's their culture, and they're used to that. So if you've ever had a dream to go to Japan, never think it's impossible. I never thought I would go. I only ended up going because my uncle, Faron Aklov, if you've heard of him, he's a very popular drummer who tours around the world with his trio group. Once a year, they go to Japan. And this year, I decided to just ask him and see if I could join him on this trip. And he said, sure, saved up enough for a plane ticket and spent the time with him. Went from Tokyo, caught the plane, stayed in Tokyo for a couple days at the Sun Route Hotel, and basically got the full Japanese experience. It was great. And toward the end of my trip, I believe the last place I went was Kyoto. And they were in the midst, I think it was a Friday, so kids were out of school. And that weekend was a Yukata festival. I almost forgot about this. And if you're familiar with the Yukata, it's almost I believe it's the female's equivalent of a kimono, because a kimono comes in both male and female, I believe. But a yukata is strictly female, or vice versa. I forget. I may have that opposite. But basically, really beautiful garbs that the females wear, and it's more of a almost kind of a romantic thing. They do it there as a lot of boys take their girlfriends to go on the dates and go around tour. The girls wear their prettiest yukatas and go walk around town and go to different shops and buy sweets and go to movies or whatever. So I ended up just showing up in Kyoto on that day, and it was really nice. I got to see a lot of great different shops they host specifically for this event. So basically, it's almost like a tourist event, but for locals. They host it like a food festival, like here in Detroit. Basically that. They host it, and all the locals come down and basically get a view of the city with sakura trees were in bloom, and all the yukatas are really beautiful to look at. And when I went there, I forget that Tokyo and Kyoto, they're both in Japan, but they have different dialects almost for certain words. So thank you in Japanese, arigato, they know what it means if you go to Kyoto and say it, but they prefer okini, which is the Kyoto-based version of thank you. So it's like different dialects. It's almost like how up here in Michigan, you say you drink pop, but if you go down south, they won't know what pop is. You got to call it soda almost, or they won't know what you're saying. So it's similar to that, except with the word thank you and a few other base words they use. But yeah, I went there saying arigato, arigato, and then one of the women told me, I forget how she worded it, but I could understand a little bit of Japanese. I'm not fluent in it, and they speak very fast. So she basically told me that okini is the proper way to say thank you for anything while you're in Kyoto. And I basically learned that, they were really impressed by my Japanese. I'm not even that fluent in it, but thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu is how you say thank you very much in Japanese. And basically, they were very impressed by tourists that can speak their language, and they were comfortable with me to speak a little English they knew. And honestly, American culture is so, I don't want to say lazy, but we really don't have a mandatory second language. Japan, I believe their mandatory second language is English. So you can go to Japan, not even be fluent in it, and basically make your way around successfully without any worries. So, and during my event at the Yukata Festival, I went to a dango shop. If you watch a lot of anime or seen what dango are, they're basically, I forget what they're made of, like rice. The material that rice is made of, it's rolled up into a ball and put on a stick and dipped in like a sweet flavor, and they give you a little soup to eat it with. And it's a very strange taste. It's like you expect rice to be more of a dinner food, but there they turn it into sweets or desserts, or even they eat it for dinner with egg on rice, basically a bowl of rice with a cracked raw egg on it, and it'll cook in through the heat of the rice, and it's really cool. And I went to a dango shop and ate traditional dango from a dango shop. Had the soup, I forgot the name of it, I forgot the name. I'll think of it again for next week. But it was really great, really sweet. It's almost like chewing on rice gum. It was a really strange taste. But yeah, any questions you have about Japan, definitely tune in every Monday from 7 to 8. I'll openly answer any questions you have about the latest anime, latest games you've been watching or reading or playing. And you can even call in and ask me about my trip to Japan. I toured there. I was there for 2 weeks. It was supposed to be a week and a half, but I missed my flight and ended up squatting at the airport for 2 days for the next plane. But side note, we can discuss that later. Definitely call in. AniMonday Nights, we have it every week, 7 to 8 p.m. Tell your friends about it. Any open discussions you want to have, any manga you've been reading. I'm very versed in the manga world. I read One Piece. I read Berserk. I'm into Naruto, just recently finished. So I'm really open. Even if it's something I haven't heard of, I'd love to discuss it with you. No judgment. I understand it's very hard, and anime in general is very hard to discuss because people take it really seriously. You got a top 10 list. People will hate on it. People always have some criticisms about someone else's top 10 list, whether it's anime, manga, or gaming. So call us up here down at WHPR station. You can call me every week at 313-868-0331. Thanks for tuning in. This has been AnMondays with your host, Rodney Tompkins. Sayonara.
More music.
More variety.
88.1 FM.
WHPR.
One WHPR.